everybody, Punisher88 here, coming at you once again with another weekend review. So remember when I said that this weekend's review was going to be a doozy? Well, be prepared, because today I'm reviewing Batman Annual issue number 14. That's right, folks. So, to those of you who watch my reviews, you guys know that I like to start with the cover first, so let's check it out. Now, right off the bat, yes, I love this cover. In fact, no, I adore this cover. Why? Two reasons. The first one being it features a headshot of my all-time favorite DC villain, Two-Face. And second, this cover is done by the legendary Neil Adams. And that's all I gotta say about that. So, from the cover alone, do I think this book's batting 1,000? That's a very simple question. Yes, I do. But that's just the cover. Now it's time to get down to what I like to call the nitty-gritty. But before we do, I just want to take the time to mention to any new viewers out there, or any new subscribers to my channel, that if at any time during this review, or any of my past reviews, you guys notice that I look up and down at the camera quite a bit, or it sounds like I'm reading to you guys, the reason for that is I keep my notes in front of me. Why? Well, there's a couple reasons. The first one being, with the notes, I find it helps the review flow a lot smoother. Second, with the notes in front of me, let's say I'm reading part of the review and I get stuck. I can backtrack and then keep going. And third, well, basically when it comes to memorizing text, it has never been one of my strong suits. So therefore, the notes are actually a help aid. So if you guys are cool with that, awesome. We'll get through this review and we'll be on our merry way. Sound cool? Alright, so what do you say we get started? Well, actually, before we get started, I just wanted to give you guys a fair bit of warning. Since this book is about my all-time favorite DC villain, be prepared because I am going to go full fanboy on this thing. I mean, I went into complete detail and I have, let's see here, I have 4 pages of notes. That's how much I dug deep into this thing, so you've been warned, alrighty? So, let's start with the writer first. Andrew Helfer is an editor and writer who's done most of his work in the industry at DC. He's probably most famous for overseeing the relaunch of the Justice League of America and Superman, respectively into the Justice League International and the Man of Steel. The comic, not the movie. And for founding DC's Paradox imprint. Despite having more than one Eisner Award to his name, which is pretty darn impressive, Helfer doesn't seem to have, the same recognition as fellow editors like Mike Carlin or Denny O'Neil or even Julia Schwartz. He's not really a celebrity the way some of his colleagues are. He's just an accomplished editor. Oh, and he also wrote one of the most important Batman stories of all time. So, Batman has enjoyed a myriad of interpretations over his nearly 75 years of existence, with fans for every single one. Still, there are certain standouts. There are the big stories. There are the beloved stories. And then there are the classic stories. Those that, for one reason or another, were canonized. This group includes names like Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on a Serious Earth, Batman the Long Halloween, Hush, and even The Dark Knight. These are some of the most memorable titles in Batman's library, and I know I'm probably forgetting a whole bunch more, but those are the ones that really stood out to me. But I tell you that none of them can match this little issue from 1990 when it comes to Two-Face stories. In fact, most people don't know how thoroughly unoriginal The Long Halloween really is, for most of its Two-Face story was lifted directly out of this book. That's not to deny The Long Halloween its due. No. It'll take at least another 3 or 4 reads before I'm willing, let's turn the page here, to have a firm opinion about that story. But to those who think of it as the essential Two-Face tale, know that Helfer did it first and did it better. So what makes this comic so great? Character. Helfer paints an exquisite character portrait of a man losing his hard-earned grip on reality. That would be enough for some, but Helfer also gives us strong renditions of Batman and Commissioner Gordon, playing up the strong bond between the three men. Helfer also has the added benefit of writing these characters early in their development. Set in year 1, Eye of the Beholder sees Batman, Jim Gordon, and Harvey Dent all considering how far they're willing to go to see justice done. It's amazing. It's strange to see Batman even considering taking a life, especially for a normal criminal. But instead of feeling out of character, it shows a Dark Knight detective who's still testing his limits. Batman's musings on morality and Gordon's inner turmoil about his working relationship with Batman really propelled the story through its first half, its weaker half, until Harvey is ready to reveal the full extent of the damage done to him. Once we hit the real meat of Harvey's issues, though, it's pure gold from there. Helfer treats the annual much like a small graphic novel, pretty much. The book makes frequent use of simple but very powerful literary devices, such as foreshadowing and, appropriately, mirroring. Helfer even plays to a weakness of mine and makes great use of repetition. In short, there's a very definitive narrative language established for this story that really helps give every scene a real sense of importance and relevance. Admittedly, the court case that consumes the first third of the story is a little weak, and our initial villain is appropriately slimy. But while Helfer saturates him with a legitimate cleverness, he feels more than a bit hollow. The story clearly needed someone to fill the role, but ultimately, I feel that this plot thread was much more interesting in its effects on Batman and Gordon than in its own right. Another important note is that while this is my favorite Harvey Dent story, those looking for a tale of the Gotham trio will have to turn elsewhere. Indeed, the book entirely skips over the period when Dent and Batman are working together, and it's a real shame that we couldn't see, the whole camaraderie between them before things, begin to go wrong. But given the length of the story, we can't blame it for failing in that regard. At least not compared to maxi series and television shows. Dent is clearly the least stable of the three from the beginning, and he doesn't quite manage that whole White Knight persona that Aaron Eckhart managed to capture in the Dark Knight movie. Indeed, the greatest weakness of the story is a certain sense of inevitability. There are some great tragic ideas in play here, and all of them would be stronger if we could see the extent of Harvey's struggles. However, it seems that not quite what Helfer was aiming for. Still, Helfer essentially redefined Two-Face with all the force and pathos Paul Dini brought to Mr. Freeze in Heart of Ice. Amazing episode. Oh my god. Anyway, let's not get sidetracked. You'll find none of Two-Face's, gimmickry here. It's this Harvey's story is that of a man who never realized that he was a bomb waiting for a match. Over the course of the issue, as we discover the details of Harvey's life, it becomes clear that while the acid in his face and the failures of Gotham's legal system really took their toll on Harvey Dent, Two-Face was born long ago. It's a startlingly honest story, and one that neither condemns nor absolves, not unlike its impartial antagonist. For Two-Face and for his father, the truth is much more complicated than simple abuse or disease. It's about the way they look at the world and how Two-Face is ultimately all about choice. Now, while I'm not old enough to remember it myself, I have to imagine that this was pretty cutting edge for 1990. While The Dark Knight Returns had clearly paved the way for more serious treatment of Batman, and the Bronze Age had long since begun to reinterpret Silver Age concepts, through a lens of noir and realism, this is the oldest Big Two comic I know anyway that explicitly includes parental abuse. Now, while the acts in question might seem slightly cheesy to some readers, sensitive to such topics might want to take a moment to think before they pick this up. And those who've known of such situations might be surprised at how accurate the events of Harvey's childhood can be. But it's not just the setup. No, Helfer also writes Harvey's present with such sophistication and force. You can practically hear him swinging from calm to rage and back at the flip of a coin. He manages to bring together the gangster, the supervillain, the lawyer, and the frightened child in Two-Face to the forefront. Best of all, he gives a simple and perfect explanation of how Two-Face operates. One I think more than one more recent writer should have a look at. He does have Harvey refer to himself in the first person plural, but as the man would say himself, you can't win 'em all. One other thing I have to applaud is the presence of a very human Batman. Not so much in character, though that is certainly the case too. But in his skills. I mean, Batman started off as a somewhat, hard-boiled character, drawing from the mystery men of the 1930s. And it's really nice to see him make a mistake or, be taken by surprise or even knocked out. That classic of the hard-boiled genre. Helfer is joined by Chris Sprouse. Sprouse was a newcomer to the comics world when he penciled these pages, but you might not know it looking at them. Sprouse gives us a very classic-looking Batman story, clearly influenced by the art of the late 70s and 80s. He even works in some of David Mazzucchelli's style into his own for a few scenes, really meant to evoke the spirit of Batman Year One. Though he apparently looks back on this story as a folly of youth, Sprouse's talent is plain to see. He draws a strong version of the entire script, regardless of its shifts in tone and lighting, with a very good eye for angles. Perhaps his greatest strength is his ability to draw faces. Though Sprous's work is hardly, photorealistic, he manages to convey a great deal through his character's design and expressions. It doesn't feel impossible that the Harvey Dent in Eye of the Beholder could go by his nickname of Apollo Dent. But he's hardly got the look of a standard comic book leading man. Now, to be fair, he's not a leading man, but what I mean is that the very design of his face does a lot to express his character. Something in the way Sprouse draws Harvey just feels right as a lawyer, as a gangster, as a desperate family man. Sure, he tweaks it for each panel, but right there, he's already done half his work. This goes for all his characters, each one given specific attention and thought. And then there's the expressions. Oh, God, amazing. Sprouse gives each panel a life of its own. Even mundane images come alive through the subtleties in each character's face. Love, fear, and desperation play in the eyes of Sprouse's characters. There are definitely some wonky moments, including a panel where Batman looks less intimidating and more like he's been dosed with Joker venom. But it's actually disheartening to look at this story and know that this is the exception rather than the norm. He even manages to bring out the real horror of Two-Face's disfigurement, giving us a version of the bisected gangster that acknowledges the awful reality of his plight while staying true to the original design. The book also has a fine letterer in the form of John Costanza. Costanza's distinct choices for fonts, a simple but very overlooked part of the comic book endeavor, really shine in this story as they serve to define Bruce, Jim, Harvey, and Two-Face. One problem does arise, however, at least in my copy. It's sometimes hard to read Batman's narration, and I'm not sure if this is a natural fact of the book or just a random defect in the way my copy's ink has really aged, but it did slow me down just a little. Together, Helfer, Sprouse, and Costanza really craft an excellent piece of visual storytelling. The coin flip sequences are especially haunting, with their minimal visuals and creepy captions. The whole book utilizes darkness extremely well, and a fact made all the clearer by seeing the inked and penciled pages. My favorite example is a pair of pages towards the middle of the issue that begin in the Dent's apartment and ends with a beautifully one-sided action sequence. And the combination of words and visuals is exceptionally strong. And if anything, the book reminds me, and I'm probably going to botch his last name, so I apologize, J.M. DeMatteis, I think that's how you say his name, his classic Kraven's the Last Hunt story. Batman Annual number 14 here is a wonderful addition to any fan's collection. Trust me when I say that. The story has been largely eclipsed by The Long Halloween, and accordingly has only been reprinted once in the mid-90s. Hunting down Batman featuring Two-Face and the Riddler even is quite unnecessary. However, as the original story is often found in back issue bins for around what you'd pay for a modern comic. Or maybe you'll have my luck and pay $1. That's right, I paid $1 for this thing. Best dollar I ever spent. Eye of the Beholder is a underappreciated gem in Batman's massive fortune. It affected nearly every portrayal of Two-Face afterwards, notably the excellent Batman the Animated Series episodes that introduced the character, and remains a beautiful fusion of modern-age realism, and remains a... Well, I'm rereading my old lines. Modern-age realism and Bronze Age style. I mean, take a look at the clever way that Helfer and Sprouse explain the change to Two-Face's modern-age look, if you need an example of what I mean. And at least to those of you who own this copy, you'll know what I mean. I honestly feel that this issue does a far better job of handling Harvey's story than The Long Halloween. But if you ever happen to come across it, take the opportunity to, meet one of Batman's most frightening and enduring adversaries, and the man who fought the good fight and lost. So there you go, folks. 21 minutes of me babbling about one of the, or if the most amazing Two-Face stories ever written. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, give her a thumbs up. And if you didn't enjoy it, give her a thumbs down. And if you enjoy comic reviews like this one, take a look around my channel. I got plenty of them. Also, if you guys are into, let me gather my thoughts here. Okay, if you guys are into unboxings, as you guys know, I am a member of the Marvel Collector Corps, so if everything goes according to plan, I do a new unboxing for you guys every 2 months. If you guys are into comic reviews, like I just did, I do a new one every Thursday and Saturday. Thursday being a current comic, and Saturday being one of either a back issue book, a hot topic book, or something that just really catches my eye. If you guys are into backstories on lame comic book characters, whether it be villain or hero, well, every Wednesday I choose one at random. Or if you guys have any suggestions for me, let me hear them. Leave them in the comments, wherever. And I pick one at random, and I give you guys the dirt on them. Basically, who created the character, when they made their first appearance, yada yada yada. Also, if you guys are into comic book hauls and whatnot, I got plenty of those too. And if you guys are into reaction type videos, well, I have my Thoughts and Stuff series where I choose a Netflix-based superhero TV show. So at the moment, I'm pretty much more than halfway done watching season 1 of Jessica Jones. And when on schedule, I watch 1 episode a week. And then after watching the episode, I let you guys know what I thought of it. I go scene by scene, and if during the process of watching the episode I spot any Easter eggs, I let you guys know about those as well. And if you guys would like to get a better idea for my Thoughts and Stuff series, I urge you guys to check out the playlist I put together for when I did my Thoughts and Stuff on season 1 of Daredevil. And if you like what you see there, well then you can check out the first 8 episodes of my Thoughts and Stuff on Jessica Jones. And then, if you guys love everything that I just told you, awesome. Also, while looking around my channel, make sure to comment on any video you like, because I love reading viewer comments. And as well, like or dislike any video. Yes, I did say dislike, because let's face it, no one's perfect, right? And then, when all is said and done, before leaving, make sure to click that subscribe button. Alrighty? So that's it for me. I apologize for making this video so long, but when I talk about my all-time favorite DC villain, it's expected. So to any of you out there who made it this far, you guys rock. And to everyone else who just took the time to watch this video, you guys rock as well. Alrighty, so I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you back here on Wednesday for your weekly dose of lame comic book character goodness. Alrighty, but don't worry, stick around because a little bit later I will have your usual What's What with Punisher 88. Alrighty, so again, to repeat myself, till next week, this is Punisher 88 signing off. See ya!